Boom, 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 boom. I'm live. According to that, I'm live. Okie dokie. Right. That's it. Anybody feed me back out there? Let me know whether you can hear me okay and whether you can see me okay. Slightly different format tonight. I've put the camera in a different place, so hopefully that works. Meantime, I shall sit here. We'll wait and see what comes up, and yeah, we'll have a chat. I hope you've all had a great week. I had an awesome week. Been a little bit busy this week, helping a couple of friends out. But yeah, interesting week. Evening, Dog Dad. How are you doing, mate? Hopefully you've had a good week. Enjoyed the videos that you did this week, Mac. Excellent. All good. Excellent. You can all see and hear me. Fantastic. Hey, computer's good. Yeah. Oh, I like the video you put up on the dogs. I enjoyed that. That was really, really interesting. And again, yeah, as a dog owner of many years myself, exactly right. Get that recall. Yeah, good job. And thank you for the mention as well. Really appreciate it, mate. That's really gratifying. Yeah. Other than that, it's been a busy week. Got out, did the video, and then mate phoned me up following day. Help me. So I went and helped a mate out, and helped another mate out on Friday. But sometimes that's the way it goes, isn't it? You're there to help people. You know, that's why you have your friends. You help them, and then one day help you back. So the world works. Anyhow, it's Sunday night. I'm on Thatcher's Katie tonight and my cigar. So please do excuse me lighting up my cigar. And yeah, I'm wearing a shamag. I do apologise. Evening, Rick. I guess I put shamag around my neck. Like a lot of people, I got pretty hot the last few days. And just realised when I sat down up here tonight and sort of changed my position, that I thought, God, my neck's stiff. And realised I've been sat in front of fans and that most of the day trying to keep cool, and stiffen the old neck up a little bit. So from experience, cover my neck up, keep it warm. Dirty faces, like that. Keep my neck warm, keep the drafts off it, and that'll loosen up, be fine by the morning. Hey, yeah, what an interesting week, eh? What an interesting week. So at the beginning of the week, and obviously I've not shown any of you on the channel, and I'm going to have to do a video on it. For many years, I've camped using tentage and bashers and all the rest of it, and been quite happy to sleep on the ground. I've gone to motorcycle rallies, literally just a tarp strung from the side of my bike, pegged out, sleeping bag chucked underneath it if I could even bother with the sleeping bag, and crashed out under that. Done tentage and all the rest of it. And Kaz, over the years, she's been more than happy to join me. You know, we're both quite adventurous souls, but eventually it gets to the point where I myself, I don't mind being out in a hammock, and I'm not overly comfortable on the ground anymore, even with an inflatable sleep mat. You know, I'm 57 years old, and yeah, I've put a couple of pounds on and that, but I've got a lot of so we say bruises, wear marks. Hi Ray, how you doing, mate? Wear marks, a bit of damage over the years. So again, you wake up on a cold morning on the ground, it can be a little bit much. So I built a trailer. Now, because my Kaz has difficult mobility issues, as a mobility scooter, and I'd looked at all the little teardrop trailers. I didn't want something massive, didn't want a caravan. I wanted something I could put behind the car and tow. I wanted something that we could get out into a field if we wanted to, or even up a trackway. Evening, Phil. And so we built ourselves an off-road trailer camper. And the precept of this trailer was that it could take a little bit of abuse off-road, tow okay on the road, not be no taller, no longer than the Land Rover, would have a built-in kitchen, under an awning on the side. So you pull an awning out, kitchen sections on the side, enough room for 2 people to sleep really comfortably, and a pretty much like a garage or store area for a mobility scooter and all the relevant kit to charge that. So a very good friend of mine helped me build that. Well, in fact, he did the majority of the building. He's a bloody good engineer. He built it for me. I had to go out and I bought a plant trailer and I bought all of the kit, and he put it together for me. And so we ended up with our camper. And that was about 2 years ago. We used that. We've used it a few times, thoroughly enjoyed it. However, this year I started sort of looking, and sometimes you sit there, do we get enough use out of that? Do we get enough use out of that? And I was very tempted. I very nearly sold it. But I managed to pull myself back from that because, as a couple of very good friends pointed out, if you get rid of it, it's gone. That's it. What are you going to do then? If you and Kaz want to clear off for a weekend or go away to a show or an event, what are you going to do? Expect Kaz to sleep on the ground? No, ain't going to happen. So we kept it. So there's I'll be on a video very soon. We'll put that up on a video. Let you have a look at that. Because again, another thing I want to chat to people about over the next few months is guys with disabilities. Okay, guys with difficulties. Not all disabilities are visible, and not all disabilities are obvious. But there are many people out there with disabilities and difficulties, and it's hard to get out to the countryside if you have a mobility issue or if you have a vision issue. Okay, if you're, and I learned that a couple of years back when I was out somewhere and I lost my glasses, and I'm not blind without my glasses, but it does make my near vision pretty drastic, and so and mental health, as Max just pointed out, and guys, it's get out there and enjoy yourself. And one of the things that I think has worked for me over the years, and it works for a lot of other people, is the ability to get out there. Maybe in the next few years, I'd like to try and set up a camp, set up something where people with any problems talk could come and just maybe one weekend a year where they could come and just enjoy, and I know from my own experience, sometimes for people, getting out into those sort of environments can be a concern and a worry. People worry about how they're going to be perceived by others. But there's one thing I do know about our community, and just not just you guys in this community, but in the general countryside community and outdoors people community. The majority of people are very open, very honest, and quite decent about how they treat people. Yeah, exactly that. So as Kaz said, it's getting out and enjoying yourself. So next year I will be setting up a weekend. Any of you are welcome. I will then ask you guys to help me advertise it, and it will be a simple weekend. I'm going to have to try and organise toilets and all that, but it's going to be a weekend where we can invite people that have or think they're limited. I'd ask any of you guys, Dog Dad and that, to come along, give talks, come and have a chat to people, set up something. Hampshire Hog Hunters Club, they'll be there. Some of their guys are absolutely brilliant. I mean, within the Hog Hunters, we've got a very interesting world of guys with some real deep knowledge and experiences. Yeah, well, I'll do that. I'll do a walk around on the trailer, show you what I've done. I'll show you what I would do differently if I did it again. Show you the mistakes I've made and the bits that are brilliant, because there are a couple of bits on it where I go, do you know what? If I did it again, I'd do that. so that's pretty much where my week's gone, and an idea and planning ahead where we would like to go. Hampshire Hog Hunters Club. So that's developing into a world where anybody can go and ask a question. People can go and get information. People can go and share ideas. And we've got a wealth of guys on there. I mean, we've got Tim, chap I know, he's signed up to it, and he has travelled the world in a Land Rover with his family. And he has worked for Land Rover for many years, setting up expeditions, trips, and journeys. So again, wealth of experience. We have guys there that are ex-special forces. We have guys there that are from maritime agencies. We have guys there that from aviation. So again, it's a wealth of knowledge. And again, you guys join and throw in your knowledge. And you don't have to be an expert. Everybody has life experience, and in your life experience, you may pick up something. You might be an electrician. Might get somebody come on there, go, oh, I'm just going to wire up one of these in my. How do I do it? You know, it's showing information. Dog dad, you are the guy, the dog guy. You know, so somebody wants to know about dealing with ticks and things like that, which again a lot of people don't. Phil, yeah, he's just built a mini camper, a micro camper van out of a Transit Connect, and it's, I tell you what, absolutely gorgeous. I'm quite jealous actually. It's yeah, I've watched a guy build it, and it's yeah, I like that. Chuff for him. We've got Jace, he's a van lifer. Yeah, so it's a wealth of experience, and I don't know about you guys. One of the things I'm noticing within YouTube and that, there's a lot of people putting up stuff and going, yeah, do this, I do this, you do this. But there's nobody actually saying, get hold of us and ask. There's not many places you can go and get hold of somebody and say, actually, do you know what? I don't know. You know, look at me. I can get hold of somebody and say, what am I doing wrong with friction for? Why can I only do it when I'm in Africa or Australia? Why can't I do it here? Yeah. So I'll be throwing that question up pretty soon. Anyhow, so yeah, on top of that, this week's video, yeah, we got out. It was a short video, and I'm pretty gutted that GoPros don't have a good zoom, because the actual video didn't do justice to how close Matt got to that deer. He was within 25 meters of that deer, and we couldn't see the fawn at the time. It was only when we knew she had a fawn there by the way she was behaving. And again, like I say, I know they were coming in to cut that field. They cut all the fields around it. And I've had the experience myself where a fawn gets clobbered, and it's never nice. So, yeah, me and Mac decided, let's see if we can flush her and the fawn off. And the woodlands across the way there, it's a very long, deep woodland, and it's very, very dense, so it's quite safe. She moved her and the fawn off into shelter there. And then she did a typical doe trick, which was once she got the fawn in, she went in, spent a few minutes in there, and then she came out, made sure we saw her, and then she trotted down the tree line away from us. And that's a deer trick. That is, now I've hidden my baby, I'm going to make you think we've cleared off over there. And she will loop back round and come back to a youngster, anything from 1 or 2 hours later. And again, as I said at the beginning of the video, if you guys ever come across a young deer, you know, if it's not injured, and there's no, you know, if it's suffered a dog attack or something, then obviously, yeah, you know, it's going to need help. But if it's just sat there, leave it alone. Please don't touch them. Okay. I know they're an absolutely beautiful thing. They're really cute, and you can quite often walk up to them and pick them up. But you don't want your scent on it. Okay. Leave it alone. Look at it from a distance and move off quietly. Leave it. Guarantee your mum's going to be sat there watching. Okay. And enjoy. Enjoy. We both got a bit of a buzz out of it. It's always nice to see. Oh. So, I was swinging my cider. Oh, and as you can see hanging up on the wall behind me, there's a couple of fishermen's vests. So, yeah, when I go out this week, again, I will demonstrate my load carrying system for taking over from a belt order, just to give you guys some ideas from there, give you an idea of what will work for me. And again, belt order. It works for some. It doesn't work for me because of my body shape. And I could change my body shape. I know that. Uh, I'll be honest with you, I'm quite happy with my body shape. You know, I spent many years of my life watching my weight, exercising and all the rest of it, and I still get a reasonable amount of exercise. But you know, I think Kaz is happy with how I look. I don't think I have to impress her quite as much as I did when I was 19. So I don't worry about that. I'm happy and safe in how I am, how I appear. Yeah, I'd like to shed a couple of pounds, obviously. But as for wearing belt kit, and nothing, Matt brought up belt kit, and I'd forgotten all about it until he mentioned it. You know, wearing belt order, especially if you've got quite a rig on, yeah, that's sat on your hips. If you're moving long distances, especially in hot weather, that can really, really rub on the hips. And again, so then you've got to put a yoke on. So if you put a yoke on, you might as well have a backpack on. And not to say that it doesn't work for everybody, because there are guys it does work for, but not for me. And I think sometimes what it is with belt kit, I think it also goes back to a military thing. I think a lot of the military guys, when you talk to them, they don't want to wear a belt kit. They would rather, you know, sling everything in a bag, have the essentials in a pocket, and go. Their days of having to load out, and as civilians and as guys doing this sort of thing, we're not carrying, you know, 200 rounds of link in your day sack. You're not carrying 6, 7, 8 magazines. You're not carrying grenades to the 203. You're not carrying smoke. You're not carrying, you know, everything you need for combat, and then having your food, your shelter, and any other gear that you may need with you, as well as a weapon, as well as water. And, you know, it's massive loadout. So in the military, yeah, belt order, yeah, it's understandable. Yokes, webbing, and all the rest of it's understandable. But as civilians, we don't need it. You're not carrying weapon systems, so you cut off probably 2/3 of the weight straight away. I wasn't infantry, um, uh, but I can tell you from my experience, a combat loadout, blimey, yeah, and a radio, yeah, yeah. So how I mean, once you've got all that kit on, which you're going to then need for an exercise, combat role, or whatever you're doing, okay. So as civvies, we're removing 2/3 of that, but a lot of guys look at the image, I think, and they see the image, and it's an impressive image. Okay, you see guys in some real extreme situations, and you see their loadouts, and you're like, you can't help but be impressed. Yeah, yeah. Drop pouches. I mean, I'm not saying it's wrong to carry pouches. You can see I've got loads of webbing pouches up there of different types and all the rest of it, but I try and keep it down to the minimum. Yeah, and yeah, not too military. I mean, because of the budget I'm at, you tend to find that a lot of my kit is surplus, um, and yeah, it does the job. But yeah, where I can, try not to look too military. I try to look country. If it works, and it's comfortable, I'll wear it. I did get asked a while back, was I worried about what people would say, because it's an American chap, and he said to me, you know, oh, you shouldn't be wearing combat fatigues and that unless you're actually serving at the time. And I said, well, it's different here. We don't look at it like that. And I said, and the other thing is, if I'm wearing combats, I'm probably wearing DPM, which is no longer issued. So what does it matter? Okay. You know, if I'm walking around with a berry and a cat badge on that doesn't belong to me, or an insignia that doesn't belong to me, yeah, you know, that's wrong. But just because I'm wearing a smock because it's bloody good tough country wear, or a pair of combats because they're damn comfortable, um, yeah, or carrying that much kit that you. And the other thing is the damage, isn't it? Yeah, how many servicemen damaged knees, hips, shins, backs, just for carrying loads. But that's part and parcel of their job. And then we come into this field. And so for me, it's like trying to sort of focus down on my kit and enjoy using it rather than having the military head on, which is, I mean, I'm not touch wood. I'm not going to get invaded by a foreign force and have to defend my country. We're quite lucky here, but yeah, But if it came to it, yeah, put me on the front line. Again, yeah. So that's where you've got to look at it. I mean, it's what I call sort of the Rambo mindset. We all want to look Gucci, okay? We all want to look Ali as fuck. No, excuse that language, but it's finding a bit of realism there. Yeah, what do you actually need, and sorting out the kit you really require for what you're doing. I got the Polymath Survival Tin a few weeks ago, and I'm going to take that out. We're going to do an overnighter, and I'm going to sort of Mac's going to bring his kit along, and he's going to set himself up nice and comfy, so that basically, if it goes tits up, I do have somewhere to fall back to. Common sense, good planning. But I'm going to spend a 24 to 48 hour period just purely on the Polymath Survival Tin. Okay, just give that a test out. Yeah, exactly that. The ability to move with a load. Okay, so when we come into our civvy world, yeah, what's the first thing we do? I'm buggered if I'm carrying all that. Okay, and we still do it. Still load ourselves out with more than we really need. Yeah, you say that, bad backs. I remember when I was a kid, I don't know about everybody else, right? So there was two types of bags that you saw at school when I was a kid. And I think I've got one here actually. Bear with me. Please bear with me. No, I've put it away. No. Right, so there were two types of bags at my school. There was what I call your scroats. Me, my mates. And what we carried was basically a haversack, an ex-army, probably 1940s, 50s canvas haversack with a single strap. Brass buckles went over our shoulder, books went into that. Our sandwiches got smashed into that as well, and it all got mushed in the bottom. It slung out of your shoulder and away you went. Then you had the posh kids, and they either had a proper satchel, a leather satchel, posh, or if they were really posh, a briefcase, a little black or brown briefcase. I think quite often they were faux leather, but yeah, they had a briefcase. And I remember I used to look at them. It used to look like it was that shaped, It was sort of like that shape, and looked like a doctor's bag, and yeah, they looked quite sophisticated. I know which one found it easier to walk across the fields to get to school. It was me with my haversack. Yeah. But yeah, if you look at what we used to, that's the other thing, is it? Do kids get loaded out quite the same as we used to? Because I remember when I was going to school, I used to have so many bags that I had to or so many books I had to carry, and then a PE kit as well. Which used to load you down, couldn't. But I don't know. Do kids carry as many books to school these days, or is because of the internet, because of computers, because of technology, they carry less? Carry more. So that doesn't surprise me. And it's not going to be good for them. Not good for them. It's a funny old thing, isn't it? They sit there. Health and safety says you can't carry more than so much weight, and all the rest of it. It's got to be carried correctly. It's got to be carried in a safe manner. Right? You can't do a job these days where you can pick up a box like you used to. Yet a kid can be sent to school loaded down. paid a kid to carry my satchel when I was a kid. Yeah, I'm afraid I went to one of them schools where nobody got paid. It was a case of, no, if you were smaller, you're a thick here, son. So you didn't get much choice. Yeah. But again, yeah, it starts there. And then, again, we're a regeneration. I mean, I used to go bailing as a kid, picking up straw bales. And as kids, because we were a bit fitter, we would follow the trailer around the field. And it was our job to throw them up onto the trailer. And then the older blokes would actually stack them. It's ridiculous, isn't it? Ridiculous loading kids out like that. Yeah, have we really come that much further forward? Is technology really helping? And then the other thing I noticed is there seems to be more stress on the kids these days. Yeah, well, I won't get into the politics of that, but yeah. So military kit, civilian kit. What do I recommend? Well, I like civilian kit. I do like civvy kit, but the better civilian kit tends to be expensive and doesn't have the wearability of a lot of the military kit. I like the fact that I can pick up sold cigarettes, 10 each. Yeah, you were one of them lads then. Bit of a spiv, eh? So, yeah, reminds me of a kid that we used to have there used to be a lad in the bike sheds at my school, and he was a sixth form, and he got caught. What he was doing, he was taking his dad's adult magazines, cutting the pictures out, okay, and wrapping them with clear sellotape, and he was renting them out to the younger lads. It's a nudie picture. You can have it for a week for 20p. Little mafia. Yeah, different world. But yeah, so I like my military kit. I like my military kit because I can afford it. I buy it. It's going to last. I never actually thought of that, but yeah, I thought it was just to make it last a bit longer. Splash proof, white proof. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so I like things like the military burgers and that. But I will admit, there are some fantastic bits of civic kit out there. Yeah, some of the lightweight gear is absolutely awesome. Things like DD tops. I never thought I'd go over to DD tops until I saw a mates a few years back. I was quite happy with my military top. I'd even gone so far as at one point I had two military tops that I'd sewn together and sealed. And then I come across the DD top, and it was so light, and yet it's pretty strong. And initially, I sort of went, "Is that going to last?" It's flimsy. But no, it proved its worth, and then I progressed up to the XL. And to be honest with you, I think it's an absolutely awesome bit of kit. Yeah, it's discipline, isn't it? And again, if you're going to have military kit, you've got to discipline yourself. You like you say, take 120 litre Bergen. The military mindset or the survivor mindset is to carry absolutely everything you need. And then what you end up doing is you end up packing it and packing it and packing it. And I don't know about anybody else. Yeah, patrol packs really all you need. I think the patrol pack is an ideal size. But again, it's things like water, isn't it? So you sit there and you go, right, I'm going to take 2 litres with me. That's all I'm going to need. No, I'll take 3 just in case. Yeah, I'll take 3. But it doesn't go through your brain how much water weighs. Okay. And then you've got other little things like, if you've got half a litre of water, okay, in a container, it starts to slosh about. Like, it doesn't sound like a biggie until you're trying to tiptoe across a branch or a tree over a stream or something like that. And it's just that little bit of movement can be enough to throw your balance off. So, yeah. So this week I should go out and I should show the vest and I should show how I pack the vests out. I've got 2 vests. I sat there, I thought about it today, and I thought, well, do one as your woodland vest or your, I'm going out and having a bit of an adventure vest, and the other one as what I would carry with me as an urban kit, and almost like just a lightweight. What would I need, or what would I like to have with me in an urban environment? And the other thing is, and we'll get into this later on. Somebody got hold of me or sent me a message, and they said, you're in the UK. What would you recommend to me for defence? Now, he's not in the UK, so he's not affected by UK laws, and he didn't tell me where he was in the world. Okay, but I take it he's somewhere where he could have an issue, whether it's, I don't know whether it's animals, whether it's people or what. And it set me thinking, okay, if I was in a grid down situation and I've got to make my way back, how would I do it? What would I carry with me? What would I use? What would be an efficient tool to pretty much say to somebody else, keep the hell away? And if I needed to protect myself, to protect myself. And I sort of thought, and I went through the obvious, knife, axe, gun, be realistic. What have you got with you? What would you have with you? What could you carry with you? And I said, and it come to me, I thought, hang on, what did we do 400 or 500 years ago? We had pilgrims, and we had people, not just pilgrims, but we had people that would travel length and breadth of the country in some very rough areas, quite often alone, on the old byways and footpaths and that. Well, they'd have a staff. And it's obvious staff. It's a big old walking stick. Okay, it helps with balance. It helps you cross water. It's a third leg. It helps you move. But if you had to protect yourself, a stout piece of wood, shoulder length, okay, means you can keep somebody at more than arm's length. Yeah, you can keep somebody away from you. You can clout somebody. You can move brambles. You can move nettles out the way. If it's an animal, you've got something you can put between you and that. So I got back to him and said, I would consider a staff, and I practice with it, not as a weapon. Although, if you had to protect yourself, whether it might be a bull in a field, well, mind you, you've got a 2-ton bull bearing down on you. Yeah, standing your ground and belting him on the nose with a stick at the last minute is probably going to take more nerve than you've got. Or driving off a bear could probably be difficult. But if you've got nothing else, this is something you can keep something at bay. Okay, so yeah, it's keeping that weight down. And again, there's another reason for having a staff, isn't it? If you've got a lot of weight on your back, it's something to give you a bit of support. It's something that can also form a ridge pole. It's something that can be used to make base of shelter off of. I mean, that's quite an old walking stick that I made many years ago. And that's a piece of hazel. And as the hazel grew, around the inside of this, it had honeysuckle. And the honeysuckle constricted the hazel, and the hazel grew out round it. And I seasoned it for a year. And I actually used to use that for ceremonies and things for my other side of my life. But again, something like that, light, strong trekking poles. Yeah, again, good trekking pole. Can't go wrong with a good trekking pole. Yeah. You know, if you got attacked by a dog, trekking pole's going to be something to give you distance between you and that, and it again helps with your balance. So that was my answer to that person's question. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get on with my book. I'm going to run through my next couple of chapters with you. I started reading it out to you last week. There's not a lot more to go. This is what I base my training for people off of, and this is knowledge I picked up from different people, different readings, writings, and my own experience over the years. So we finished off last week with being prepared, planning, location, acquisition, navigation, and medical. Okay. So, basically, that's where that ends. The next chapter starts with the rule of three, which you all know. Rule of three is 3 minutes without air, 3 hours without shelter, 3 days without water, and 3 weeks without food. Now, on my research to that, on research into this, yeah, it's a theory. It was a theory expounded back in, well, it started really back in the 60s. It's a guide, okay, and it's an extreme guide. It's 3 minutes without air. Depends on your lung capacity. You might be able to go another several minutes. Yeah, some people can't go 3 minutes. I won't go 3 minutes. Okay, 3 hours without shelter. That depends on the environment. You're looking at extremes, but you want shelter within 3 hours. Keep the weather off. Protect your body. Protect yourself. 3 days without water. Now, 3 days without water is to the point where your kidneys are collapsing. Okay, that's the point where your body is packing in. Okay, you are going to die. However, in a climate like we've got today, it's been very hot, very humid, very muggy. You are starting to go down within hours if you're not getting fluids in you, and that affects your body's ability to rationalise. Water is a conductor of electricity. It's used by your brain to send signals and pass signals to muscles. It's a lubricant. It's a coolant. Okay, it's a way of carrying vitamins, minerals, sugars around the body to the muscles and the organs that need it. It's okay, within hours you're starting to feel the effects. Okay, so 3 days, yeah, I would pretty much like to think that anybody is going to be sourcing water within hours of a problem or sort themselves out that way. And 3 weeks without food. Yes, you can survive 3 weeks without food before you die. But the same with water, within hours of running out of your body's nutrients, your body starts to consume its own fats. It starts to consume its own muscles. It goes into starvation mode. Right? The lack of sugars, the lack of carbohydrates, the lack of proteins means that your body starts to feel tired. You start to slow down. Your ability to think and rationalise again are affected. Okay, so the rule of three is a very good general rule. It's great to teach survivors, but you've got to be practical about passing on the information and explain to them. Those are the utmost extremities. Okay, so it's a rough guide based on conditions and fitness as well. And again, conditions and fitness depends on how you've trained, what sort of condition your body's in. It's not a bad way to think, but adapt to your physicality and the conditions you're in. So 3 minutes without air, we're not going to talk about that. No point. Very rarely you're going to find yourself in an oxygen-less environment, and if you do, okay, you're either going to get out of it or you're not. There's not a lot you can do about it. Okay, so yeah, that one's out there. 3 hours without shelter. It's a shelter building. You need shelter pretty much because we are a tropical animal. Okay, we're not covered in fur all over our body. We're not particularly waterproof. Our body will only take an adjustment of temperature of a couple of degrees. The only place you can survive in the world with no clothing is the tropics. Okay, you get eaten by everything, but you will survive. So we need shelter to keep the sun off us. We need the shelter to keep the cold off us, keep the rain off us, and to manage our environment. Okay, well, that starts with clothing. Clothing is your first layer of shelter, and then it goes up to actually building something, putting a cover up. Now, shelter is any structure at all that will give you shelter or protection from the environment. Even a wall, a vertical wall, will protect you from wind and rain if you can get on the leeward side of it. If it's in the right place, if a building's in the right place, there is always that little area behind it where you've got that little dry strip that you could huddle down into just to protect yourself. Same when you're out walking the hills, the fells, you can use a tree for shelter. Okay. You can use structures, buildings, vehicles, bins. I had a friend that spent the night in a wheelie bin. Actually laid it down, climbed inside it, just to give himself a bit of protection. So again, that's just down to your imagination and your thought process. In your kit, you should have stuff to help you shelter. Even, and people laugh at me, they go, "Oh, mine space blankets don't do a lot." They do a lot. Okay, used sensibly, it will protect your body from the wind, it will protect you from the rain, and it will trap heat. So again, not going to be the most comfortable night in the world, or the most comfortable night you've ever had, but it's going to stop you dying. And that's what survival is. It's not about, oh, super comfortable night, what an excellent night. That's a bonus. Okay, it's that situation where you've come through the event and gone, I don't believe I survived that last night. I don't believe I made it through those conditions. That's survival. And it ain't going to be comfortable. Okay. Yeah, but remember this: shelters for cold trap heat, and the shelters for heat are open. Okay, simple rules apply. Usually in the UK, we're looking to avoid hypothermia. We're looking to stay out of the wet, unless it's been like it has the last couple of days, and it's going to be this week. So, what you do, you look at your environment, you look at the kit you got, you rig something up, and you protect yourself from the environment. And that's pretty much a rough on shelters. I could go into more depth there. We're not going to, because when I'm using the book, I then take people out on a course, and then we would go and construct 3 or 4 different very basic shelters, whether they be windbreaks, whether they be protection from sunlight, whether they be protection from rain. And I try and get them to do one of each. Just a basic shelter, something to protect you from rain, something to protect you from wind, something to protect you from sun. Okay, and then it's mindset. So fire is the next thing on our list of things to do. So get a fire going. Right? I'm not going to talk about the risks today, although the first paragraph on my fire section is always talk about the risks. I've talked about a lot about that just lately, and most of you guys are intelligent enough to understand the risks of fire in peat, woodlands, and so on. Okay, so I'm not going to insult your intelligence there. I then, on the course, would go into fire lighting tools and methods, and it's just a footnote here. Fire. Think about the risks opposed to the benefits. Okay, if it's going to be a warm night, you really need to fire. If it's a survival situation, yes, it gives off light, it tells people where you are. For those of us that are out just enjoying the night, do we really need it? Not necessarily. Another note for me here: why I don't use primitive methods, but I've learnt them. Okie doke. So you're in a survival situation. Okay. So if you're in a survival situation, you've put yourself there. Whether you've been in a vehicle crash, whether you've been in a plane crash, whether you've been, cast adrift, whatever the situation, you've put yourself in that situation. Preparation. This kit behind me, right, a small pouch, a fire lighting pouch, or something like that, with you, a cigarette lighter. Okay, it's preparation. That's the real art of survival. Is just having those bits with you. Primitive skills. If you're in the British Isles in the middle of winter in the pouring rain in Hawley Woods and you're trying to make a fire using friction, all right, you're screwed. I've tried it. It's a nightmare. If you're in the African savannah, you're in Australia, you're somewhere it's a warm, dry climate where you've got the materials. Yes, of course it'll work. Yeah, and it's a go-to in those environments. So again, I don't use primitive methods. I rely on carrying some skills and equipment with me to make my life that little bit easier and to help me get through. Okay, when you're making a fire, the most important thing isn't necessarily the tool you're going to light it with, it's how you prepare the fire and the kindling. Get everything ready beforehand, right? Then light your fire and prepare it in such a manner that it is going to just be and it's away. Okay, practice that and practice using different kindlings. Leaves burn different to bracken. Bracken burns different to nettle. Cotton wool burns one way. Cotton wool with Vaseline burns another way. A candle lighting a fire is quite a tricky thing to do. Grab yourself some tea lights and try using tea lights to light a fire. So many people say, oh yeah, you want a candle, you can light a fire with a candle. Have a go. Okay, it's not as easy as you think. The slightest puff of wind, it goes out. Any moisture in there, it goes out. It's a tricky thing to do, but have a go at it. Yeah, practice these skills. Okay, types of fire. Well, how many types of fire lay? Okay, if you're going to spend the night in extreme cold, wet environments, Siberian long log fire. Keep you going all night and will keep the whole body warm. Okay, so star log fires, again, good fire for burning for long periods of time. In a survival situation, that's the sort of fire I tend to go with. I tend to go with large logs that I can keep feeding into the fire. Okay, rather than expending energy having to cut logs into sections and making nice stacks of wood next to it, which is lovely. It's what I'd call homesteading. It's wonderful, right? Why not have a slightly smaller fire, have your long logs, and just keep feeding them in? Because that's what our ancestors did. That's where you get the whole story of the Yule log from. That goes back to a time when we lived in communal buildings or long huts. And what we would do in the winter, we would have our timber prepared outside, and it would be in huge, long logs. And some of these logs could be 10, 20, 30 feet long. And you fed it in through the door, shut the door, laid it on the floor, put one end into the fire, and as that started burning down, you fed it in and you kept feeding it. And the Yule log was usually the best log of the year. It would be something that you would bring in and it would keep burning for days through the celebration period of Yule, midwinter. And it kept the fire going. So you could feast, you could party, you could carry on, and you weren't having to look around every 10 minutes and go, the fire's going out. Okay. So again, that just having a bit of practical thought about it, because again, in a survival situation, you don't want to burn calories. Survival is about being lazy, doing the minimum for the maximum effect. Okay. Fire, uses fire. Well, it's obvious. We've been through it 100 times. Fire. So you use fire for signaling, you use it for cooking, you use it for warmth, you use it to keep animals at bay, use it for morale, and you use it to sterilise water. That's the important bit. Build your fire kit. Find 4 or 5 different methods that you like and practice with them. Practice and practice and practice and change the environments. Go and make a fire on a windy, wet day. Okay. It's easy to do it in a perfect situation. Go and practice it when it's hard. That's the best time to do it. Okay. And then when you do find yourself in a desperate situation, or if you ever find yourself in a desperate situation, you've got the confidence in doing it. Okay. There's many types of ways of cooking, but again, it's about having the kit with you. You can't boil water if you haven't got something to boil water in. Okay. And again, something I might get into at a later date, but it's doing things like boiling water in plastic bowls. You can do that. Okay, there's a thermal interaction between the water, the plastic, and the fire, which prevents the plastic from burning. Okay, it's a bit of a fine-edged tool, but you can boil water in a plastic bottle. Whether or not I'm really going to get into that, because it's a long-winded thing. The other thing is I don't really want to encourage people to go sticking plastic bottles on fires. It could be quite dangerous. But again, you can do it. And again, it's using your imagination, bean tins, whatever you can find. What can you salvage? What can you put on there that you can boil the water in? Can you use stones to boil water? Yes, you can. Our ancestors did for thousands of years. They also used it for cooking. Okay, cooking things from the outside or from the inside out. So they would put hot stones inside the cavity of carcasses to cook the meat. Okay, so it's again all technology from our ancestors. That section takes me on to water. That's where we get a bit longer. Water is essential for life. You can survive 3 weeks without food and only 3 days without water. We've already discussed the truth behind that. You will start dehydrating within hours. You will be suffering from dehydration. It's your coolant and removes toxins via the kidneys and acts as a conductor for nerve impulses. It is limited and must be replaced, or health and ability to function will suffer. The average person loses between 2 to 3 litres every day at rest. Even in shade, you'll lose about a litre just sitting still. Okay? And you'll lose that through breathing and perspiration. Right? If you have diarrhea, vomiting, it will increase even further. All running water can be purified through boiling or using chemical means. Right? I suggest that you filter as well as boil, and ration your sweat, not your water. That's from Lofty Wiseman. It's a good saying. That's well worth remembering. Right? Always make sure you're carrying enough. So if you're in a situation where you're running low on water, your next priority is going to collect water. Okay. One thing I will say to you, especially in the UK, if you're collecting from the world, think of pollution. Okay. If you're in a water rationing situation, or you're having to take it easy on water, sip small amounts, take it regularly. Yeah. Don't swig it. Otherwise, you just turn it straight to urine and lose it. Right. Tips to stopping yourself from dehydrating: avoid exertion, don't smoke, stay in the shade, erect shade if necessary, keep as cool as possible. Do not lie on the hot ground. That will also go against you. Eat as little as possible, okay, unless that object you're eating provides moisture. Your body needs water to break down food matter, especially fats. Avoid alcohol, definitely. Your kidneys need more water to work out the alcohol. Yeah? Don't talk and breathe through your nose. Okay. So finding water, as we said, pretty much any running water source, filtered and boiled, will keep you going. Okay. If it's a genuine survival situation, you do what you got to do. Work on the principle that once you're saved and you're rescued, you can go to hospital, be treated for most things. Okay. Being up on the mountain, looking at water and going, I can't really drink that because it could be dodgy, and dying of dehydration is not going to work for you. Purification, simple purification. Okay. Invest in purification. Water is essential to your body, so invest in it. I use the Sawyer Mini, okay, because I like it. It's small and it's efficient. I've used it for many years. It works for me. Millbank bags, they're great for filtering out material. And if you combine that with the Sawyer Mini, use the Millbank bag to keep your Sawyer in. Okay. Yeah, brilliant bit kit. Works lovely. Okay. Rainwater, been through that on a dozen